Hello students, welcome to the lecture on dividend policy in financial management. And after this lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Discuss the profit of management, explain the dividend policy, understand the factors influencing dividend policy, understand the advantages of issue of bonus share, determine the disadvantages of stock dividend, describe the stock splits, discuss the Walters model and Gordon's model, understand the Modi-Gilani-Miller model, define dividend policy stability. Let's start with the introduction of dividend policy. Dividend policy is a set of guidelines a company uses to decide how much of its earnings it will pay out to shareholders. Some evidence suggests that investors are not concerned with the company's dividend policy since they can sell a portion of their portfolio of equities if they want cash. This evidence is called the dividends irrelevance theory, and it essentially indicates that an issuance of dividends should have little to no impact on stock price. That being said, many companies do pay dividends, so let's look at how they do it. Dividend policy of a firm thus affects both the long-term financing and the wealth of shareholders. As a result, the firm's decision to pay dividends must be reached in such a manner so as to equitably apportion the distributed profits and retained earnings. Since dividend is a right of shareholders to participate in the profits and the surplus of the company for their investment in the share capital of the company, they should receive fair amount of the profits. The company should therefore distribute a reasonable amount as dividends, which should include a normal rate of interest plus a return for the risk assumed, to its members and retain the rest for its growth and survival. A company stands on whether it will pay out profits as dividends or keep them as retained earnings. If the company decides to issue dividends, the policy will outline whether or not the dividends will be issued on an ongoing basis. Let us now discuss the management of profits. The purpose of business is the creation and the maximization of profit. Profit management often becomes more of a hoped-for effect of other business decisions rather than a proactively predicted, managed and measured core goal. It is ironic that the creation of profit is the central focus of all business activities, yet most of us spend our time managing the factors which produce profit rather than managing profitability directly. Instead of making decisions that indirectly influence profit, executives should be attempting to determine the effects of their decisions on profitability ahead of time. Proactive profit management allows us to know the effects on profitability of different resource allocations before we make the decision as to which resources to use. The most successful organizations are those with the greatest ability to grow and manage profit. Since business environment and variables are constantly changing, it is essential that scarce business resources can be consistently reallocated to the most profitable activities. Profit is not necessarily in direct proportion to production volume and machine loading. Now moving on, we will study the dividend policy. A dividend is nothing but a periodic sharing of profit by the company with its shareholders. The dividend is usually declared as a percent of the face value of the share. 100% dividend on a share with a face value of 1 cent means we would get 1 cent for every share of that company hold. Once a company makes a profit, management must decide on what to do with those profits. They could continue to retain the profits within the company, or they could pay out the profits to the owners of the firm in the form of dividends. Once the company decides on whether to pay dividends, they may establish a somewhat permanent dividend policy, which may in turn impact on investors and perceptions of the company in the financial markets. What they decide depends on the situation of the company now and in the future. It also depends on the preferences of the investors and the potential investors. The advantages of stable dividend policy are desire for current income. Some investors like old persons, widows, etc. desire to get stable current income to meet their living expenses. They invest their savings in shares with a view to get regular income for their living. If they get low dividend, they would be compelled to sell some of the shares to meet their living expenses. So they would prefer to invest in shares of those companies which pay regular and stable dividend and would be prepared to pay a little high price for shares of such companies. Removes investors' uncertainty. The stable dividend policy removes uncertainty in investors' mind about dividend payment. Even if the earnings of the company decline and the company continues to pay the constant amount of dividends, it would indicate that the management views the bright future prospects for the company. Additional finance. The credit standing and the prestige of the company paying stable dividend increases in the eyes of the investors. When the company wants to raise additional finance, investors would be willing to buy its shares or its debentures. Particularly small investors requiring regular income would like to invest their savings in shares of companies paying stable dividends. Now we will learn the factors influencing dividend policy. Following factors influence the dividend policy. The stability of earnings. The nature of business has an important bearing on the dividend policy. Industrial units having stability of earnings may formulate a more consistent dividend policy than those having an uneven flow of incomes because they can predict easily their savings and earnings. Usually enterprises dealing in necessities suffer less from oscillating earnings than those dealing in luxuries or fancy goods. Age of corporation. The age of corporation counts much in deciding the dividend policy. A newly established company may require much of its earnings for expansion and plant improvement and may adopt a rigid dividend policy, while on the other hand, an older company can formulate a clear-cut and more consistent policy regarding dividend. The liquidity of funds. Availability of cash and sound financial position is also an important factor in dividend decisions. A dividend represents a cash outflow. The greater the funds and the liquidity of the firm, the better the ability to pay dividend. The liquidity of a firm depends very much on the investment and the financial decisions of the firm, which in turn determines the rate of expansion and the manner of financing. If cash position is weak, stock dividend will be distributed, and if cash position is good, company can distribute the cash dividend. Extent of share distribution. The nature of ownership also affects the dividend decisions. A closely held company is likely to get the assent of the shareholders for the suspension of dividend or for following a conservative dividend policy. On the other hand, a company having a good number of shareholders, widely distributed and forming low or medium income group would face a great difficulty in securing such assent because they will emphasize to distribute higher dividend. Needs for additional capital. Companies retain a part of their profits for strengthening their financial position. The income may be conserved for meeting the increased requirements of working capital or of future expansion. Small companies usually find difficulties in raising finance for the needs of increased working capital for expansion programmers. They, having no other alternative, use their plowed back profits. Thus, such companies distribute dividend at low rates and retain a big part of the profits. Trade cycles. Business cycles also exercise influence upon dividend policy. Dividend policy is adjusted according to the business oscillations. During the boom, prudent management creates food reserves for contingencies which follow the inflationary period. Higher rates of dividend can be used as a tool for marketing the securities in an otherwise depressed market. Government policies. The earnings capacity of the enterprise is widely affected by the change in fiscal, industrial, labor control and other government policies. Sometimes government restricts the distribution of dividend beyond a certain percentage in a particular industry or in all spheres of business activity, as was done in emergency. The dividend policy has to be modified or formulated accordingly in those enterprises. Now we will discuss the advantages of issue of bonus shares. Following of the advantages of issue of bonus share. Conservation of cash. The issue shares allows the company to declare a dividend without using up the cash that may be used to finance the profitable investment opportunities within the company, and thus company can maintain its liquidity position under financial difficulty and contractual restrictions. When a company faces stringent cash difficulty and is not in a position to distribute dividend in cash, or where certain restrictions to pay dividend in cash are put under loan agreement, the only way to satisfy the shareholders or to maintain the confidence of the shareholders is the issue of bonus shares. The remedy for undercapitalization. In the state of undercapitalization, the rate of dividend is very much high. In order to lower down the rate of dividend, the company issued bonus shares instead of paying dividend in cash. Disadvantages of stock dividends. Although dividend stocks are generally less risky than non-dividend stocks, these do carry some risk and may not hold sufficient promise of rewards for some investors. To make a well-informed decision of whether dividend stocks are right for them, consider not just their pros but their cons as well. Past results are no guarantee of future performance. In other words, yesterday's winner can be tomorrow's loser. Investing always carries some risk and dividend stocks are no exception. Stock splits. A stock split is essentially when a company increases the number of shares. For example, if we owned 25 shares of XYZ at $15 per share and there was a 2-1 stock split, they would then own 50 shares worth $7.5 each. Why do companies issue splits if you still have the same amount of money? Liquidity. Some companies believe that their stock should be inexpensive so more people can buy it. This creates a condition where more of the company's stock is bought and sold. This is called increased liquidity. The problem in theory is that the increased activity will also lead to bigger gains and drops in the stock, making it more volatile. many investors believe splits are a good thing. Their thinking goes, well, if the stock was at $15 and now it is at 7.5, it has to go back up to where it was. This is wrong. The stock is where it was. Remember that each share now represents half of the equity in the company that it did before the split.
There are no sure things in the stock market, but if you're looking for a way to improve your odds, consider buying companies that split their stock. In theory, a stock split has no impact on the value of your shares. When a company with, say, 1 million shares outstanding trading for $100 per share completes a 2-for-1 split, it ends up with 2 million shares selling for $50 apiece. The company is still worth $100 million, and your piece of the company is worth the same amount before and after the split. Moreover, a split does not affect a stock's valuation. A stock with a price-earnings ratio of 10 or dividend yield of 3% will still sport a PE of 10 and a yield of 3% after a split. In reality, though, academic research indicates that companies that split their shares tend to outperform the market for nearly 3 years after a split. As mentioned, the split itself doesn't create value, but it's an indicator that executives and members of the board of directors are unusually confident about their company's potential and think that their stock is going nowhere but up. If you want to bet on splits, you can choose from 2 approaches. The simple strategy is to invest in companies that have already announced splits. You can find a listing of upcoming splits on NASDAQ's website. The second strategy is to try to guess which companies are likely to split their stocks in the future. You could, for example, look for stocks that trade for more than $100 per share. Individual investors often get turned off by stocks that exceed that price. Then, check to see if the company has a history of splitting its shares. Companies such as Apple, Google, and the high-priced champion of all, Berkshire Hathaway, have proved reluctant to split. IBM, on the other hand, has split its stock 15 times in its corporate history. And with a triple-digit stock price, it may be ripe for another round. In any case, don't buy a stock just because it has split or you think it's going to split. First and foremost, make sure the underlying company is solid and that the stock is well priced. A split is just icing on the cake.
Walter's model, relevant. Professor James E. Walter argues that the choice of dividend policies almost always affects the value of the firm. His model is based on the following assumptions. Internal financing. The firm finances all investment through retained earnings, that is, debt or new equity is not issued. Constant return and cost of capital. The firm's rate of return R and its cost of capital K are constant. 100% payout or retention. All earnings are either distributed as dividends or reinvested internally immediately. Infinite time. The firm has infinite life. Valuation formula. Based on the above assumptions, Walter put forward the following formula. P equals to DIV plus EPS minus DIV R over K, where P equals to the market price per share, DIV equals to the dividend per share, EPS equals to the earnings per share, DIV minus EPS equals to retained earnings per share, R equals to the firm's average rate of return, and K equals to the firm's cost of capital or the capitalization rate. The above equation reveals that the market price per share is the sum of 2 components. The first component K and the second component EPS minus DIV. R over K is the present value of an infinite stream of K returns from retained earnings. Did you know Otto Moritz Walter model in 1891 to 1945 was a German general and later field marshal during World War II. A model for determining the intrinsic value of a stock based on a future series of dividends that grow at a constant rate. Given a dividend per share that is payable in 1 year and the assumption that the dividend grows at a constant rate in perpetuity, the model solves for the present value of the infinite series of future dividends, where D equals to expected dividend per share 1 year from now, K equals to the required rate of return for equity investor, G equals to the growth rate in dividends in perpetuity. And did you know the equation most always used is called the Gordon growth model? It is named after Myron J. Gordon, who originally published it in 1959. Although the theoretical underpin was provided by John Burb Williams in his 1938 text, The Theory of Investment Value. Modigliani Miller model. A financial theory stating that the market value of a firm is determined by its earning power and the risk of its underlying assets and is independent of the way it chooses to finance its investments or distribute the dividends. Remember, a firm can choose between 3 methods of financing: issuing shares, borrowing and spending profits, as opposed to dispersing them to shareholders in dividends. The theorem gets much more complicated, but the basic idea is that, under certain assumptions, it makes no difference whether a firm finances itself with debt or equity. Note: in Financial Innovations and Market Volatility, Merton Miller explains the concept using the following analogy. Think of the firm as a gigantic tub of whole milk. The farmer can sell the whole milk as is, or he can separate out the cream and sell it at a considerably higher price than the whole milk would bring. That is the analog of a firm selling low yield and hence high-priced debt securities. But of course, what would the farmer have left would be skim milk with low butter fat content, and that would sell for much less than whole milk. That corresponds to the levered equity. Dividend policy stability. Stable dividends have a positive impact on the market price of shares. If dividends are stable, it reduces the chance of speculation in the market, and the investors desiring a fixed rate of return will naturally be attracted towards such securities. Stability of dividend means either a constant amount per shares or a constant percentage of net earnings. Stable dividend payout ratio. The percentage of the profit that is paid as a dividend is called dividend payout ratio. It shows how mature the company is. The more the dividend payout ratio, the more mature is the organizations. Investors assume this ratio as an ability of the company to generate sufficient income to give off dividend to its investors. Dividend payout ratio equals to the yearly dividend per share or the earning per share, or dividend payout ratio equals to the dividends or net income. Practical aspects of dividend policy. A firm cannot normally treat its dividend policy as irrelevant. It must carefully evaluate its circumstances and the environment in which it operates while hammering out its dividend policy. Most companies seem to accord a great deal of importance to the dividend decisions. The dividend policy and the bonus policy are debated at great length. Sometimes there are companies that make a shortcut of the dividend policy. Recognizing the importance of dividend policy, we are discussing the factors and the considerations relevant for formulating the dividend policy. Dividend policy payout ratio. Two important dimensions for a firm dividend policy are the average payout ratio and how stable should be the dividend for the period of time. These two dimensions are conceptually distinct from one another. The average payout ratio can be high or low regardless of whether the dividend stream is steady or fluctuating. Funds requirements. A key factor influencing the payout ratio of a firm is its requirement for funds in the foreseeable future. This may be assessed with the help of financial forecasts prepared in the context of long-range planning. Generally, firms which have substantial investment opportunities and consequently considerable funding needs tend to keep their payout ratio rather low to conserve the resources for growth. Liquidity. Dividends entail cash payments. The liquidity position of the firm has a bearing on the dividend decision. A firm may be able to distribute more than a small fraction of its earnings despite its desire to do so because of insufficient liquidity. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. A dividend policy is a company's approach to distributing profits back to its owners or stockholders. If a company is in a growth mode, it may decide that it will not pay dividends, but rather reinvest its profits, retained earnings, in the business. A stock split or a stock divide increases the number of shares in the public company. The price is adjusted such that the before and the after market capitalization of the company remains the same and the dilution does not occur. Free shares of stock given to current shareholders based upon the number of shares that a shareholder owns. While this stock action increases the number of shares owned, it does not increase the total value. A reverse stock split or a reverse split is a process by a company of issuing to each shareholder in that company a smaller number of new shares in proportion to that shareholder's original shares that are subsequently cancelled. A bonus share is a free share of stock given to current shareholders in a company based upon the number of shares that the shareholder already owns.